Well, first of all, let me just tell you guys, by way of introduction, that my father was one of the first Afghans sent to the United States to study. He married my mother. She was the first American to marry an Afghan and go back and live in the country with him. And she was there for 22 years, so I grew up in Afghanistan until I was the age of 16. Then I came to the United States. I've been here ever since, but I went back right after 9/11, after the Taliban were driven out, and I went back last spring. So with that bit of context, now let me tell you what I want to do tonight. I want to take you into 3 periods of Afghan history. And first I want to take you into Afghanistan, let's say in the 1770s or so, which not coincidentally, or actually quite coincidentally, happens to be about the time that the United States was first taking shape. Then I want to take you to the 1880s and 90s, a 20-year period that's interestingly pivotal, and then I want to come into today. Something that happens twice is that the British come in and occupy Afghanistan. And each time they do, they are coming in on a country that some big tribal guy has managed to coalesce into some kind of a unified territory. So each time they came in, and it had to do with political jockeying with the Russians, it didn't really have anything to do with Afghanistan. But each time they came in, they unseated the guy who was the king of Afghanistan, and they put in somebody that they felt would be more compliant and more favorable to their needs and interests in the larger global picture. And here's the mistake that the British made. They thought that if you call a guy a king, put him on a throne, and put a crown on his head, then he's the king. But in Afghanistan, that has nothing to do with it. You know, it's like the king and the throne and the crown and all that is only the emblems of a process that has already taken place, which has to do with marriage alliances, generosity, success in war. I'll just end with this one last thing. The government, the parliament, the presidency, all that stuff is pretty iffy in my opinion. But one thing that's very real in the new Afghanistan is media. They have lots of TV stations, private TV stations. They're not government controlled. They're not anyone controlled. And those guys are crusading journalists. They go out and get the story. And I've seen that satellite dishes here can get some of that TV. And I've seen like really interesting discussions about issues of politics and society and culture, and they have music shows and all that. And now that all those remote villages have these TV sets, so they're seeing that. And part of the separation of this world had been linked to the inaccessibility of the outside world for these little villages. So this thing is going to have effects that we don't know what they are. And that's part of why I'm optimistic.